Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. Once again, I am God's favourite achievement, Bradley, and joining me this week, it's made me feel a little bit less special than I was last week and the week before, because he's joining the Steam Deck Club. It's a little bit less exclusive, which means someone's broke the first rule of Steam Deck Club and been talking about Steam Deck Club. Stu, you're getting a Steam Deck.
I know, right? How exciting. That's really cool.
And have you been punching Jared Leto in the face?
Oh, God, I really wish I could. I really wish I could. The only thing, what they could have done to make Morbius successful at the box office was give you an opportunity to punch him if you bought a ticket, and then everyone would have bought one.
Oh, yeah, or just had Edward Norton in there. Just pop up every so often and just punch him in the face. Every Jared Leto film should have that.
Oh, that sounds great. I would pay bloody good money to see that.
Just followed by the line, I just wanted to destroy something beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, God, I hate him. But there you go.
But what you don't hate is you're getting a Steam Deck. I'm not even segueing yet.
I know, right? Yeah, so no, it's really exciting. So it was only last night, yesterday evening. And yeah, got the mail through. And I was like, oh, I'm really glad I didn't pull the trigger on a load of retro stuff that I was going to be buying. Otherwise, I've been in serious financial schnuck. But no, I hadn't. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, quick, get that over from savings, get it paid for, and winging its way to me. So I've already been doing the thing where I scrabble around for all the technical stuff that I'll need immediately and start trying to work out which games I'm going to download first and all that caper. And yeah, the excitement begins here.
What model you getting?
It's the 256.
And have you got a memory card ready?
I haven't got one ready, no. If I can afford one, I'll buy one. But if not, it'll be focusing on Game Pass for a little while until, and one game installed at a time, maybe. Something like that.
Yeah, sure. That was my plan with the 64 gig. I'll just put a couple of smaller indies on there, and then you realise that you can play games like Elden Ring or Yakuza Like a Dragon and No Man's Sky, and all of a sudden, one game at a time just goes out the window.
I can quite imagine. I've got Days Gone, which I've only done the first couple of hours of, and that's going to be getting played pretty quick, and that's like 80 or 90 gigs, so yeah, I'm talking rubbish, basically.
Yeah, no, you'll get that. And what's really good, what's really, really good, and we did cover this even in the special, is every day's an adventure. Because there's always something new popping up, whether it's directly from Valve themselves, whether it's the community, whether it's just new games being playable, or finding out ones that are supposedly unsupported can still work. So I made the mistake of telling Edith yesterday morning that Fall Guys was playable, and I'll let her play it if she helps tidy up, only to find out it was unsupported.
Oh, no.
But all it is one of the first things you need to do is get something called Proton Up, which is a community version of Proton, which allows you to install the anti-cheat stuff that's needed on the Steam Deck, and it makes Fall Guys 100% playable.
Excellent.
And it's just like, it's the community have really got a ball. And I think it helps that, gaming with Linux and stuff like that is quite big. But there's just every day's an adventure. My playable list has grown from about 270 games to just short of 300 now. Yeah. And I don't think I've had a system like it where you've got such a vast library available to you, but it's sort of in an official capacity being drip fed to you, so it still feels like a new console in a way.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's kind of like nothing that's come before, I think. Because, there's been consoles that were released that were to play games that were pre-existing. Yeah. Like, the Nomad, the Sega Nomad, which is just playing Mega Drive games, or Genesis specifically. But, obviously that was not experimental. I was just like, if there's a Mega Drive cartridge, you plug it in, it will work. But this is similar, but for all the games, like every game pretty much. So,
I mean, literally, it's the only handheld device that you can play every single game, potentially, maybe at very different levels of quality, ever released up until 2022. That's the entire history of video games. Some legally, some a bit more grey area, but you can do it, and it's ridiculous. But on that, let's talk about it's not even an elephant in the room, because the Switch is the elephant. Not Switch. The Steam Deck's an elephant, the size of it. So the little mouse in the room. I picked up the Switch today, out of the dock for the first time in about 2 weeks, because I've got battery issues and found out that you need to do a complete drain of the battery, and it kind of resets it. So I've done that. It feels like a toy. It honestly feels like a toy in my hand. I thought I'd broken it. It was so light and thin and felt of nothing. And then I picked the Steam Deck up again and went, no, I think I'm going to have to strap weights to my Switch, because somehow, I know people worried about the weight of the Steam Deck, but it feels so much better to hold because of the weight.
Yeah. There's a sweet spot, isn't there? I find it all right. Which one have you got? Which Switch have you got?
The original Switch with the newer battery.
Right, yeah. I don't know whether it's different weight from my OLED one, because that feels like a nice weight, but I think because it doesn't have grips, because they have that flat connection to your hands, it definitely makes it feel kind of cheaper, even though it's reasonably weighted. I don't know if that's part of it. Part of it might be psychological as well.
Possibly. I suppose PCs have always, on the whole, been bigger, and sort of like you need more space and you need to actually have a dedicated setup for them and stuff like that compared to consoles. And so it stands to reason that if you've got a PC company going to release a handheld, it's going to be a bit beefier.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear your experiences with it, because I've played more video games per hour than I have done for God knows how long, and I'm so tired as well, because it's now so easy to forget the time and sit there until 2-3 o'clock in the morning just with this thing in your hand.
Yeah. No, that is always a danger. I was like that when I first got a PSP. I was just like, caning lumens till 3 in the morning.
Well, that's exactly what I did last night. Lumines or Lumines, however you want to pronounce it, remastered. I went, do you know what? I've just installed Res Infinite. Really enjoyed playing that again. But let's check out Lumines on a slightly bigger screen. And I thought, I have a quick go. I haven't played for a while. I'll probably get to about level 30 or 40 or something like that. Made it to level 98, just short of completing the classic mode after 2 and a bit hours.
Nice.
It's like one thing, I still maintain one thing Lumines needs, and it would have been perfection, is an ability to pause and save mid-game, because as a puzzle game, you've got to dedicate nigh on 2 hours to it every time you play.
Yes, you do. Yeah. When you're doing a poor run, for your own, by your own standards, after a while, it's it knocks onto a long time.
It's a great game, though. There's not many games I can go, right, I know I'm going to be here for a couple of hours on a puzzle game, and go, right, okay, let's do this. Because once you do get started, you're in. You can't leave. The music is banging. So it's not as if you don't even get to a bit where it's you go, do you know what? I'm not too keen on the music and the skin on this level, so I can leave it at this point. No. It's just it goes to a point where the music might not be the best, but the game slows down, so you've got time to clear all your mistakes and stuff like that. Or the track is just it's the best soundtrack in a video game. I love the Lumines soundtrack.
Yeah, it's an absolute corker. Yeah, I love that game.
So, talking of shaking your body down to the ground, video games, Stu.
Indeed. And I suppose that segue was just that, that music belongs in a video game. That's about
it. Does.
That's about
Put it in everything. It needs to be in Tetris, by the way. Tetris Effect needs it. That's got a banging soundtrack, but it needs the Lumines soundtrack. Someone mod that in. There you go. What was I going to say? Yeah, not all video games are on the Steam Deck. I mean, they are, but for the sake of this, some of us might have been playing video games that weren't on a Steam Deck. So let's go. What have you been playing, Stu?
Well, first off, on the Steam Deck side of things, I've been playing a game that I will also be playing on the Steam Deck. Very, very.
I mean, that
very,
doesn't narrow it down. In all fairness,
it doesn't really. But it's one of those that it's very, very tiny in size. But so you know, it's got a really immediate install thing. You can just like stick it on, done, 250 meg or something. But it's got a very big presence, and that is Vampire Survivors. And you was going to cock that up.
Oh, I picked that up the other day.
Yeah. Have you been playing it on the deck?
Yes.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's great fun. So, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, and I guess pretty much everybody in the universe does by now, it's a Castlevania-inspired, aesthetically, Castlevania-inspired survive 'em up, which is... It's like a cross between, I'd say, Gauntlet and Castlevania for the aesthetics. And yeah, it's really, really good. So it's a survival game. It's very much like a mobile game in that it can be an infinite runner if you're good enough. And it's sort of iterative. It's a bit kind of roguish in that each time you play, you retain some of the power-ups and experience you've had from previous runs and stuff like that. I think what makes it's really hard to put your finger on what makes it so addictive. So there's just a great big screen that continually scrolls in any direction you want to go, and I think it just builds that map on the fly, and increasingly more powerful waves of enemies come at you. So it's kind of got that what's it called, tower defense style vibe to it as well.
Yeah.
I think what makes it stand out is your weaponry. So you can choose from different characters. Well, not initially, but you're soon able to unlock them, and they have different primary weapons. And then you buy like secondary, tertiary, etc. And each one of them fires at different cadences, different rates, different directions, and with different levels of power. And that sounds like that immediately makes you think, oh, this sounds complicated, but it really isn't. It's just like, off they go. You don't have to think about it. You just gotta, get in there and get killing stuff. And yeah, so it's kind of like, there's whips, there's the Holy Bible, there's all garlic, there's all that stuff that you know from Castlevania and from vampire movies and stuff. And they each have, as I say, different effects and different levels of power, and you can upgrade. And all the upgrade path is pretty much as you'd expect. There's loot boxes, there's diamonds scattered across the map, gemstones that you pick up that give you the option to choose new weapons or buffs for your weapons. And again, it sounds far more complex than it is. It's literally walk around a map, get your cadence of your hits in with where the enemies are appearing around you, keep running away and try and survive. And it just, I don't know what it is. The guy who made it has just hit on a really, really good formula for maintaining your interest, and I'm a little bit hooked.
Oh yeah, this is going to appear, I think, on many, even though technically still early access, isn't it? And technically it came out last year, technically, but this is going to be dominating, I think, a bit of discussion in Game of the Year lists. So two things. One, I see this as reminds me of two games. One is I made a game with zombies in it. The Xbox indie game thingy that came out a few years back on their little indie game experiment thing. And also pacifist mode from Geometry Wars. It seems to be a blend of those two to me. Yeah. And it's only £2.
Yep. Crazy.
It's, it cost me that for 2 crap coffees at my daughter's football. So it's not, it's better than 2 crap coffees.
Totally.
And it's like, I tried it because everyone was talking about it. And I went, I've got some built up credits. I finally sold all my Steam trading cards and things. And I was absolutely blown away by it. I went, I'll see what all the fuss is about. And like, oh, God, yeah, okay, that's what all the fuss is about.
I think that's what the price point is genius, because I know that the developer made it for himself.
Yeah.
Because I was reading up on it. and was amazed that it took off. But if the price had been higher because he knew it was going to be more of a success, I wouldn't have been so much of a success, because it's not the sort of thing that I normally put cash into. But like you said, because it was like the price of a coffee, less than a coffee, like half the price, I was like, no, I'll give it a go for that money. And loads of people have done the same thing, and it will have completely skyrocketed from there. And if he's not already a millionaire, he's probably on his way to it.
Oh, I really hope so. I mean, again, when you look at the person who made Wordle for his girlfriend and selling that off to the Times and things like that, and selling it out, I still applaud him because fair play, take what you can get, and stuff like this. You've made a game that you want to play, and it just so happens everyone else wants to play it as well. And you've gone, I'll tell you what, let's make it so everyone can play it. I hope this eventually sees a Switch release, a console release, a mobile release, if it isn't already on any of those. I hope it makes its way to and keeps this price point that it's got, because you will reach... If you're selling something for £2, and say he gets £1 from that £2, and he manages to sell this to 3 million people, that's 3 million quid he could earn from that game.
Yep.
Because it's so cheap. Whereas he could have sold this for, I've seen titles like this go for 5, 10, 15 quid before, and he might only reach a couple of 100,000 people at most. Because I'm not paying 15 quid for this. I'm not paying a tenner for this. £2 was a no-brainer. Because if it was crap, it's £2. Even for someone who's on universal credit and doesn't really have the money, it's £2.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's the perfect price. It's definitely a factor in it becoming a phenomenon. And it's at the stage now where, because it's reached so much critical mass in the media and stuff like that, if you charge for it on, the Switch for, $7.99 or whatever, or a tenner, people will pay that now because it's got the level of recognition it deserves. So it's one of those things that you kind of fall into. Well, he hasn't fallen into it because he's developed a really good game, but there's still always luck involved. But a lot of skill and a lot of luck and a good price point, and he's just really hit the zeitgeist.
100%. I mean, if you can't really even explain it to someone as to why they should play it, because you kind of, the first thing I did, I was pressing buttons to try and attack.
Yeah.
And I was only attacking with my whip to the side, and I was like, oh, I don't actually do anything. It's a clicker. It's essentially a clicker. And then you realise, oh, fuck, no, it's not a clicker. This is, oh my God, hang on. Now I get this. All right, okay. Oh, it's shooting that way. So I can walk, and automatically I'm going, so what I do, if I just walk away from them all and then get them all to follow me and then turn around and attack them a little bit, they drop the gems, and then I can circle back on myself and then pick up all those gems. So I get my little tactics going nice and early and stuff like that. And then you've got to work out how do you want to build your character. And the longer you last, the better you do, the more unlocks you can get for your next one. So you're tempted straight back in as well. And I honestly, I think this won't be the last time we talk about this game this year.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a really good point on the looking through the fire button thing, because I did the same thing, and I normally bounce hard off any game that takes away that kind of control, because I love smashing stuff up. It's like most games I play is smashing stuff up. But I just thought, oh no, that's actually genius. And it really impacts that. You have the two levels of strategy. You have your longer term planning, which inevitably goes to absolute donkeys within seconds, and you've got your short term reactions and planning as well, and it's got a surprising amount of depth for it for what it is. And it's just great. I'm very impressed.
I mean, to go from the lack of clicking and stuff like that, I mean, essentially what you've got here is a Dynasty Warriors game in some respect, but without the pointless having to mash the button. It's saving your controller, giving you a very similar experience to Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, it is a bit Musu-y. Yeah. Yes, it is. It definitely has that appeal of, I'm just one individual, but I can take on an entire, world. I think the size of it helps as well. I think the fact that even today there are very few games where in the view that you have it right at that moment, there can be literally thousands of enemies. You just don't get that.
Yeah.
It's like, because the push, I remember way back when the 360 was it that came out, or was it even the Xbox? They had that Musu game. What was it called? It was like 3Fs or something. I can't remember what it's called now, but one of it's like, it was like Dead Rising. One of the USPs of this is that we can have more enemy sprites on screen, enemy characters, not sprites. Jesus, Stu. On screen than ever before. Now we've got this power, and then they did it for like the first few months of the console's existence, and then that was it. It was back to but we can get like 60 frames and we can get it looking really, really pretty, and we can do our Call of Duty if we only have 8 characters on screen at any one time. And it's still a real unusual thing to see there be hundreds or even thousands of enemies on a screen, and them not just be a repeat just like a repeated character, or they don't have any impact on the gaming side of it. And so it's a novelty, even though it looks like an 8-bit game. It looks like an Apple II game or a C64 game. It actually has stuff in it that you don't even get in AAA stuff.
Oh yeah, you could with this as well. You could easily do this as though you've designed it in basic, where you've got that everyone does that crappy spider that you make in basic when you first get a Spectrum. And then and the enemies could all just be various different coloured squares, and it would still play as well. That's it's the again, I've said it before, the Thomas was alone effect. Can you boil this down to basic geometry shapes, and will it still play well? With this, yes, and yes, it will.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have the Castlevania license, but it almost has that feel. It's kind of like riffing on it. It's kind of like a distant cousin twice removed style inheritance. But even so, it kind of needs it, I think. It certainly needs it for the mass appeal, so that you and I would still be talking about it and playing it, even if it hadn't had that, and even if it was just abstract. But I think, having that tie into a franchise that not only is beautiful looking, even though this game isn't, it's ugly, but it doesn't matter. Even though it hasn't, it's tied into that beautiful aesthetic. It's an aesthetic that has been underused for a long time, and people are desperate to see again, I think. Like, people really miss Castlevania, and you can tell that by the number of clones that are out, like Bloodstained and all the other stuff. And it uses that traditional 8-bit aesthetic really, really well. So it's a masterpiece of marketing, and it just also happens to be a really cracking game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So that's the sponsorship segment out of the way. No, honestly, it's if you've got a PC, you've got £2 spare, just get this. We speak about, don't even look at like key shops or anything. It's we're like, it's not £2, it's £2.09 in the UK.
Yeah, it'd be like $2.50 or something, I guess.
$2.99 possibly. Yeah, it's £2.09. So honestly, it's in terms of value to like entertainment to money and stuff like that, it's going to be one of the most cost-effective games you will ever buy.
Totally agree.
So, slight change of pace then for what I've been playing. First up for me is, I've got to get the title of this right because I've been getting it wrong in practicing saying it, is Skabma Snowfall, or Skabma Snowfall. Not Skabma. I kept saying Skabma. It's not Skabma.
Smegma Snowfall?
Skabma Snowfall.
Skabma. Right, okay.
It's got not an umlaut, it's got the other one. It's got an accent above the A. Anyway, what you've got here is an adventure game, like a narrative-driven adventure game that's set in Nordic mythology. And it tackles some of the Nordic mythology that you don't see. So obviously, whenever you mention Nordic mythology, everyone goes, "Oh, Thor," and that kind of stuff, and like they get confused with Greek mythology, blah blah. But this is all to do with like the Nordic wilds and stuff like that. The gameplay is this, basically. You take on this character of Ailu. Again, pronunciations are going to be all over the shop because it's me. And they're a young Sami, as like a tribe of people in Nordic mythology. And you basically go through, there's a story beat that happens. You go through your day as you do, and then something happens, and you've got to go on a big adventure. And you've got to basically be a lone hero or try and stop a darkness that's kind of taking over the world. It's fairly generic in its setup and story and stuff like that, apart from the intricacies of the story. Learning stuff about Norse mythology is... Nordic mythology rather than Norse, let's get this right, is something special. I love learning about stuff that I didn't know about in video games, and I think games can be powerful for that. But it's beautiful to look at as well. It's got really good traversal. It's got some decent... I do want to say combat, but it's not really a combat-heavy game, even though there is some. It's a lot just about discovery and reconnecting with nature and stuff like that, and exploration and finding yourself and those kind of things. And you kind of go out and you find these things called familiar spirits. And basically, they give you various upgrades and abilities and stuff like that, which allow you to just go further and do more to stop this darkness. I think they call it a disorder or something like that within the game. But basically, stop that. And sort of progress through a story. I'm about 3/4 of the way through because it has some accessibility issues where you get some quite bright areas, and I struggle with those at times. But on the whole, it's a good balance of contrast, and it's got some of the other accessibility options fine. It's just really bright, and I can't blame the game because it's needed, and it makes sense as to why it's like that in part. So I've struggled to get through it in some segments, but I am really enjoying it, and I want to push forward because a nice, positive adventure game that isn't sort of trying to do something else has done, but isn't trying to completely reinvent the wheel, is comfortable in its own skin and has a story to tell. I think they're few and far between these days. And this is, it's just a lovely game. And I really enjoy my time with it so far.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I think I really like the fact that there's a trend towards sort of environmental stories or stories about preserving or saving your tribe, and it's kind of doing it from a perspective of tribes that have either dwindled or literally don't exist anymore. Yeah. And it does seem very much like a comment on how things are going, in general life in the world because of climate change, that things are imperiled and you have to take care over things. You have to have self-care and you have to look after your community to be able to allow it to continue. And that's a really good, strong thematic thing to play on. I think one of the side effects of it is that's a very kind approach. It's a very thoughtful one. It's not just destructive. It's not just a power fantasy. It's more about a collective and about being constructive rather than destructive. And I like all of that stuff. I'm definitely here for it.
Yeah, what's really good, I went through a couple of reviews and stuff like that, and there's been a couple of people who have said they're Sami themselves and have said that it's wonderful to see their culture represented in video games. And I think one said it's really interesting that it's been done with such respect. It hasn't been bastardized in any way, like a lot of especially a lot of the Nordic stuff gets bastardized for certain genres. Like I say, you go back to sort of like the Nordic mythology with the gods and everything. It's everyone only sees the Marvel side of what that all was really. So they've said it's good to see people who this does affect have said about how respectful the game is as well. And it is about community in so many ways. It's not trying to be grandiose, and it does a thing that just keeps everything so confined, but allows you to go out and explore. And it's kind of got this theme, and I don't know if it's just me that took this on or whether it's aiming for this, where what can you take from greater knowledge to help improve your smaller circle without then doing the damage of people around us and stuff like that. And it's a really nice, calming game. And honestly, I'm really pleased that I've got to have played it. Yeah, as I say, I've played games in a similar vein that's just not managed to hit the right notes, whereas this one has. And again, it's going to go pretty much under the radar for a lot of people. This one is about 15 quid. And to be honest, yeah, I think that's a really good price point on this one. It's just, yeah, a lovely game. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a lovely experience.
It's one of those that it sounds as though Game Pass would have been great for this as well, for it to hit a wide audience. But yeah, you never know. Hopefully it might hit the people it needs to be hitting.
One day, yeah, hopefully. But say, if you do this, check it out. At least check it out if you've got the means to do so, because this one I didn't play on Steam Deck. Don't know why. I honestly have no idea why. I think I sat down to play it on PC because I was going to try and maybe write about it, but then I realised I couldn't sit and spend time writing. So I played this one on the PC. So I've no idea how it runs on the deck or anything, but this could be a good pre-bedtime experience.
Cool.
So, what's next from you?
Well, only one more. I've been playing loads of Doom because it kind of cascaded, because I was enjoying it anyway, like I talked about last week. But this Doom Slayers collection that I've got, for Doom itself, it's got all of the expansions. And I realised when I started, like when I fired them, when I completed the regular game and then I put the next one in line on, I was like, yeah, no, never played this. Never played it. And some of them are really excellent, really, really good design. And they've kind of, most of them have gone down the route of bolstering and boosting up the exploration aspect. So they're still sort of comparatively bite-sized. Like first time through, it will take you 10, 15, 20 minutes max to get through this great big level. And then you can improve with time and get your speed up to par if you want to and all that caper. But the important thing is the exploration side of it. And it feels much more like, a kind of Resident Evil game or something like that, where it's a combination of exploration, puzzle and action all melded into one, with survival on top of it and all of that. And that's really good, and it's so good to see these levels that were created decades ago that I've never play them now and hold up so well. So I wasn't going to talk about it, but I just have. But there you go, that was my Doom experience. But the other thing I've been doing is I've been also working on Neo Geos, and I'm actually finished now for the moment at least, because I had to get one ready from a friend, because I decided there was one that I got that was comparatively cheap and not working, and I was like, if I can get this working, I'm going to give it to a friend of mine, like as a gift, because he's been so generous to me over the years and stuff, my mate Mike. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna, it feels natural, because we've been sort of gaming buddies for 30 years. And it just feels natural to make sure he's got a Neo Geo at the same time as me, because we both had them and both sold them back in the early 2000s. And it was really nice to get that going. And I had to test out a load of different games, because one of the problems I had when repairing another one was that the RAM was bad. And it wouldn't even show up on some games because it wasn't accessing the right bank of memory. So I was like, great, an excuse to stick a load of different games on and have them just run in the background. So I did that, and it passed all the tests, and that was great. And one game I'd never seen before and decided to play was Savage Rain, which is yet another fighting game, of which there's no shortage, of course, on the AES. And it's typically like SNK, and it's got gigantic sprites, it's got zooming in and out, and it has a slightly unusual fight mechanic compared to like the Capcom style. And the gimmick here is that it's kind of kung fu. Well, kung fu in the sense that it's martial arts with weapons, but it has a kind of Fatal Fury thing of you can jump in and out of the background with 2 buttons, and it also has, every character has, you can throw your weapon with 2 buttons as well, a 2-button combination. And it feels very much like Fatal Fury with weapons, you know? It's completely over the top. The sprites are gigantic. They do loads of stupid stuff, you know, and just in typical SNK fashion, like Waku Waku 7 and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a good, fun game. I had low expectations and it kind of exceeded them, really.
Yeah, I love a low expectation game when it's very easy to exceed your expectations when you've got low expectations.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's quite often been the game where I've not expected much from and just gone, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's nice when it happens. Not very often.
I did it with Knack.
Every now and again.
I remember doing it with Knack. Everyone was slagging it off, and I was like, it's not going to be very good, but I enjoy it with Lucas. He was like, I want to say 9 when the PlayStation 4 came out.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
It's about 9 years ago, isn't it?
Twice he would have been 6, 7 then. Bloody hell.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but that came out. I got that, not expecting much. I just really enjoyed it because I went, this is meant to be rubbish. And I just went, no, it's not. It's actually pretty good because it wasn't overhyped. And when you either go something completely unknown or you've got low expectations, you get a much better experience, I think. Yeah,
definitely. And it was worth kind of, I was like, no pressure on me. It was just, as I say, a test. And I wanted to go through a few levels to make sure that I'd, properly tested it all out and stuff. But it hooked me to play it for quite a while. So it's not a classic by any stretch, but it kind of looks top dollar. It doesn't have the level of animation that some of the other games have. But I enjoyed it more on first blush than I did Ninja Commandos, which is sort of a similar thing in terms of fighting. But it's solidly mid-tier, but even for SNK, but it's decent enough. It's nowhere near like, some of the Fatal Fury games and King of Fighters, and it's in a kind of World Heroes Perfect kind of a dimension of B-tier kind of beat 'em ups.
Yeah, I struggle to keep up with beat 'em ups. I always just assumed there was about like 3 different beat 'em ups when I was younger. There was Streets of Rage, Double Dragon, and then like Turtles, essentially. And then it's like, I went, oh my god, there's loads. I didn't know there was this many.
I know, yeah, it's crazy. A lot of them went by the wayside, I think, and a lot of them were much more popular in Japan, which kept them from our eyes. And it's kind of like when I was at college. They had, this is how long ago it was when I was at college, that they actually had arcade games and they weren't there as a retro throwback, oh, look at that kind of thing. They were actually
ahead of their time.
Cutting-edge entertainment. And they had Street Fighter Alpha 3 and, was it Alpha 3 or Alpha 2? Alpha 2, I think. And they had Super Street Fighter 2 and World Heroes Perfect. Well, they had a four switchable MVS setup, Neo Geo. Because it had Metal Slug as well. And was it World Heroes Perfect? I'm not sure. It was one of the World Heroes games anyway. And I remember thinking at the time, well, who would bother playing that when you could play Capcom's fighting games? And it wasn't until many years later that I realised that they had their own value, played completely differently, etc., etc. But they live or die by their community, fighting games. And if one that isn't even that good gets popular or has flaws, then that's what you'll end up playing, even
just
if there's
like
better
Street
stuff
Fighter.
knocking about.
Is that controversial to say that? When we're talking about not very good and flaws, we say Street Fighter?
Probably not. There's not really any majorly flawed Street Fighter games. There's ones that are embraced and enjoyed more than others, but yeah, pretty much, I don't know, they're just pretty much brilliant, apart from obviously Street Fighter 5, which is garbage. But there you go.
Well, no, the best fighting games, Star Wars Masters of the Terraskazi or whatever it's called.
My mate bought that. Oh, dear. Yeesh.
Oh, dear. Yeah, he's someone who doesn't get it. I played that and went,
yeah, no thanks.
Isn't very good. And I've liked some bad games in my time.
Oh, me too.
Right, before moving on, just want to cover a couple of bits. Did you know... Right, we don't just do this for me and you, Stu.
Really?
This podcast. I know, other people actually listen to us and read the stuff we put out.
God.
Did you know that?
Well, no, I'm very surprised. I do feel sorry for them. But, yeah.
I've had 2 messages this week come to me that have shown us that there's a little world beyond us. One came from someone who heard us on a YouTube show, and apparently some little lad called Stu had written into this show and mentioned the Mental Health Gaming podcast, and I was like, oh, that was really nice. Something called like Anything Goes. I'm assuming it was you that sent in whatever it was, Stu.
Nope, wasn't me.
Skullface discussion.
Nope.
No, right. This is even more of a mystery then, because I got sent a video where someone actually mentions mental health gaming, and they call themselves Stu. I'll send you the link so you can watch it.
That's kind of nuts.
And it gives us a little bit of promotion. So that's really weird.
Future Stu here, just interjecting. Yeah, it must be because I'm not very well, but I completely forgot that yes, indeed, I did do this. I asked a question on a YouTuber's channel, Bobby Skullface, and I also, at the end of it, said, oh, can you please give a shout out to my podcast? And then it completely erased it from my mind. That's great, isn't it? Wonderful. Anyway, on with the show. Nice.
And the other one, I'm not going to mention a name, actually. I only mentioned a name because I thought it was you. But he's a young lad in America who has mentioned the podcast and quoted an article I wrote a little while back about The Last of Us and sort of like the profound effect it had on me in terms of how I think about myself and how I approach video games and stuff like that. Used it in an article they wrote about mental health and video games and how it could help PTSD and things like that. And I've had a little read of the article of his essay, and it was a really interesting essay that he wrote. Not gonna lie, don't agree with some of it, but that's the point of an essay. But it was like really nice, and he sort of like thanked us for sort of like what we do and how much he enjoys us, what we're doing, and the group and everything. And it was just really, really lovely to know that we are reaching out to people beyond me and you on our headsets.
That is lovely, yeah. That's really appreciated, knowing that people are out there and enjoying it. And it doesn't matter. I've never been bothered about the numbers, but no. I'm bothered about the people who do listen actually enjoying it and getting something from it. So that's really good news.
Yeah, and as I say, it was a lovely. Like he's quoted, he's really proud of what he's written and stuff like that. I'd give him an A if I was grading it, because he made me question certain bits.
Cool.
It wasn't just a fluff piece. But yeah, he sort of like he really sort of like hoped that I'd give him feedback and stuff like that. So I'll definitely do that in a personal email back. But yeah, absolutely lovely to get that. So to help a bit, if we have affected you in any way, positive or negative, please do let us know. We're always open. We love to hear comments. It makes us feel good. Or if you just want to tell us that one of us is fat and one of us is ugly, go for it. I don't mind. We just need to. It'd be nice to know that people are listening.
Yeah, I prefer comments and positive ones and money and gifts.
Or dick pics. Send dick pics.
Yeah, I'll take whatever.
Yeah. This is the only action I'm getting. That went weird.
Did a little.
That went very weird. Anyway, so my second and final game, really, for this at the moment is one I wanted to cover last week, but got sidetracked. And it's one I can't play on the Steam Deck as it stands, and it's called Instruments of Destruction. You'll recall me over the past couple of weeks talking a bit about Abyss, or Abyss, however it is, how it was my favourite demo of the Steam Next Fest, and I played the full release, and I really, really enjoyed what it is. But we seem to be having this little resurgence of games which are about destroying things. I should have segued from the Fight Club segment to this, really. But anyway, and with this, it's more like Besiege than it is Abyss, where you have to create vehicles and then use that to destroy structures. And, it's got a career mode, and it takes you through a bit of a career where it introduces different mechanics and different ways of destroying, but everything's kind of unlocked to you. It's early access, and there are some bits locked away because they're not put in the game yet, but there's nothing lock to you in terms of progression. So you could build these really insane levels of technical achievements and go and destroy bridges, buildings, dams, settlements, whatever. Absolutely none of the things. And it's just, there's something about spending like a good hour to 2 hours designing something and then watching it go to town on destroying. And you get a feeling if the likes of your Trumps, your Kim Jong-ils, your Putins and that had this video game or Abris, they might not be so angry and want to do it in the real world. Because it's beautiful. It's it's got fire effects. It's what's it? Not polygons, are they? What's the little what this made up? Voxels. It's almost like voxel based in a way. I don't think it is voxel based, but it feels that level of destruction to it. And it's just, this is what a sandbox should be. When people try and put a sandbox into an adventure game or something, so the likes of what's it called? Watch Dogs and stuff like that, where it'd be better if it was more linear, or if for me the Assassin's Creed games more linear, make them more linear. That'd be better games. This is what a sandbox should be, where it goes, look, there's this one objective, have at it, and this is what this does really, really well. Don't think it's as good as Abris, but it's not a bad game. I mean, it's like saying, this £80 sirloin is not quite as good as this once in a lifetime rare blue steak from the outer highlands of Scotland that have never been touched by man before and only fed Japanese wheatgrass. We are on that levels of it. It's damn good, just not quite as good as this. It's just really interesting. Still in early access. It's only £12-ish. And if I remember correctly, I was like flabbergasted. I'm just going to check my notes. It's file size. Considering everything it's got going in it. Where is it? Bear with me.
This is great content.
It always is. I gave, I'll mention it in an interview, gave an interview to the wife and wife team of Princess Farmer, and they had to look something up. And I said to them, look, whenever you've got to look something up, you're checking your notes. It's more professional.
Exactly, yeah.
Profession, you can tell we're professional.
Oh,
you can absolutely tell we're professional here.
Completely. It's in everything that we do, especially the segues.
Well, I can't find it. I mean, it's a tiny game. It's like, Abris is like 2 and a bit gigabytes. And Instruments of Destruction, I'm sure it's like a few hundred megabytes. I'm going down my list and I still can't find it, even though I've got it installed. It's tiny. Here we go. 381 megabytes.
Nice.
And it's ridiculously detailed, and I don't know how they've done it. It's voodoo.
Nice.
But yeah, really, really good. Really good. I played Besieged to death when that came out. It feels like 10 years ago. I can't remember when it actually came out now. And it feels like a modern take on that. I just really enjoy it. If you like destroying things, check it out.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I like destroying things, and normally on a kind of personal level, though. Destroying people and families and that sort of thing. But yeah, I can get behind destroying inanimate objects in games now and again.
Oh, is that why you made those lies up about me to Lo?
Yeah.
Oh, she didn't care.
No, I didn't think she would.
And so I wasn't giving you the Bitcoin, Stu.
No.
I don't care what you said you see me do on my PC, and that you'll share it with all my friends.
Worth a try.
I won't regale you with the story, but it's still my favourite thing of someone who got that and asked me to deal with it. Basically admitted they watched god-awful porn on their computer to me.
Ooh.
I know. But who doesn't?
Sounds troubling.
You just go ahead. I watch all kinds of filth, so go ahead. Do what you want. I don't care. I have no shame left. We've just been through a pandemic.
Filthy.
So before we move on, and I want to move on and talk a little bit actually about the supposed end of the pandemic and way my attitude has been forced to change, unfortunately. Just want to cover this week well, this podcast was due to have a very short 10-minute interview with the developers of Princess Farmer, Skabma Games, B and Charlene, who are a wife and wife team who made the game Princess Farmer. That 10-minute interview, because it was conducted by me, lasted about an hour. I mean, kill surprise, who would have thunk it? It was a really good chat. So that's going to be going out on a special, and you should be able to get that at the time of listening to this or just after. But there'll be a link in the description. But for now, if Stu's doing his editing magic, here's a quick clip from that interview. Were those ever in your mind to have like a basic timed mode and an endless mode, or that you'd usually see in a Columns or a Tetris or a Puzzle Fighter, those kind of games? Was that ever in your mind, and was there a reason those weren't included in the end? Those sort of things.
100%. I was looking through UI screens of all the different ways we were handling the different gameplay types. It was a nightmare. But yes, we used to be all about quick play. And then we kept hearing that people wanted story. So we went, okay, we're focusing on the story.
Yeah.
We're going all in on the story, and we can add quick play later. So we are adding quick play. I think B has not, I don't know if you can say, when is this coming out?
I don't know. Soon.
Excellent. I'll take that as an exclusive. So there you go. Right. That's just literally a brief taster of what's to come. It was a really interesting chat, by the way. Really enjoyed talking to both the women behind it. We chatted a lot about the development of the game, the what was behind it, what's to come, the accessibility issues, and how deliberate their pro-LGBTQIA plus was with there being in a same-sex relationship with one of them being a trans female as well, and whether there was a deliberate notion to make that as part of the game. And it was just a really interesting discussion, and both of them were really, really lovely to talk to. So please do give that a listen.
Well, I will, definitely.
Well, you've got no choice. You've got to find a bit to edit into the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Just edit the bits with me out. It's fine.
It'll be a pleasure.
Yeah, like, who's interviewing who? No, I thought I was pretty good. I'm going after Parky's job. Weird.
For younger listeners, Parkinson was yeah, no, I think most of our audience will probably know who he is.
Yeah, most of us grew up with him in some vein. He's the guy who does the tea advert sometimes now. Not Sean Bean. That's a different person.
Is Michael Parkinson still alive, is he? I suppose he is. It'd be a National Day of Mourning when he dies.
Yorkshire, maybe.
A Yorkshire Day of Mourning.
Yorkshire Day of Mourning. But yeah, just want to so have you found yourself, Stu, now we're at the end of COVID, quote unquote, taking more risks because of societal pressure, or have you managed to sort of like escape that so far?
Yeah, I think I do take more risks, and I think, partly it's managed risk and partly it's just, you can't escape societal pressure to a degree. Like, I think of myself as quite, I like to conform to social norms, in that I like to give way to people, smile at them, be part of a society. But I was more than willing to withdraw from society when I knew it was going to be bad for me. And when society starts coming back together, whether it should or it shouldn't, which is totally open for debate, and I mean that literally, that's not like a sly dig or anything, it genuinely is up for debate. It's very difficult to get away from that pressure. And, I'm not well now, and I wasn't well over Easter. I think I've got a secondary infection because of being unwell over Easter and then not recovering properly. And I caught that from being out and about with people in the wider world the week before. And it's not COVID, but I caught it off other people. And it's a salutary lesson of, well, this is what happens when you go out and mix with people. But you're at a point where you're going, do do I just stay away from people forever? Do I minimize my interactions with them? Do I take more risks, fewer risks? What do I do? There's no steering, there's no guidance, it's just your own personal choice. It's very, very strange. So that's where I am.
Yeah, so what brought this up for me is, this is going to almost sound like an anti-vaxxer, anti-masker rant, but it's nowhere near. I've had COVID, and this isn't, I've had COVID, so I'm exempt. But I'm 99% sure I've got long COVID. I mean, unfortunately, no one still knows what is the outright effect of long COVID, or if it does affect different people differently. But since I've had COVID in, September? I think it was, early September, just after. I've been bunged up constantly. My sinuses, I get sinus pains now that I never used to get, but I've been constantly bunged up that I could go almost most of the day without being able to breathe through my nose. And I've, over the past couple of weeks, really, really struggled. I think possibly as we got warmer, we've been able to breathe in a mask, because as I'm breathing in the mask itself into my mouth.
Yeah.
And that's causing me to have minor panics, because I'm also, I can't breathe properly. I've been struggling through. The couple of times I've forgot my mask, been out in the car, got, oh crap, not got my mask. But we've only been going into like a Costa coffee, so we're going to order, we're going to sit down. No one else has their masks anyway. But they get really sort of like major anxiety panics about it. Going, oh my God, I should be wearing a mask, should be wearing a mask, should be wearing a mask. People are watching me. People aren't watching me, because no one else has got a mask. But I'm like, oh no, God. So I'm still forcing myself to wear them. Like if I go into like a supermarket or something where I know I'm going to be in there for a good hour or something like that, I'll put it on. But I found myself sort of not being as worried or stuff like that about having my mask when we've popped out or we've gone and done something like that we wasn't gonna do. But then I'm feeling so guilty about it as well. I sort of get home and I go, I should be wearing a mask. I know I should be wearing a mask. And I don't want people to think that I'm anti-mask when they look at me without a mask. Because I know I've seen some people going, I don't have to wear a mask, that's why I'm not wearing a mask. In terms of their going into like a clinic and going, oh God, you're going to make me wear one. It was like, you're in a clinic, wear a mask. I still make sure I've got a mask in a clinic.
Yeah.
First and foremost. I mean, that should be the standard at any hospital, in all fairness, forever.
Of course.
Everyone should be masked up in a hospital or a clinic or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not asking sort of like, make me feel better, but I don't know what I should be doing or what I should be feeling now in terms of what protections do I take and what's right and what's wrong. This is where our leaders have really screwed up, because we don't know what's right or what's wrong anymore.
Completely. Because I'm almost the inverse, in that I always feel like bad for wearing a mask, because I do and I don't, but I always feel very conspicuous because almost nobody wears them now, and the only people that you see wearing them with impunity tend to be very old people who are like, I've learned my lesson, I'm not going to take any bloody risks now, which is absolutely great, but the thing is, it's kind of like I go back and forth, because if it was a selfish thing, if it was like, by wearing a mask, I am protecting myself from you people, that would be one thing, and I would struggle with it more. But I don't so much, because you know that wearing it helps other people if you've got it, or if you've got anything, because it prevents the distribution of your respiration quite so far and so powerfully. But it only works in a group. It only works if everybody's doing it, That's the only way it ever seriously reduces the numbers. So then I find myself in environments where I'm not wearing one, and it, either because I'm eating, or because I've forgotten my mask, or just because I can't be bothered. And then I feel guilty. Then I'm like, well, I really should be wearing one and be more, sharp about this. And I think probably a lot of people are in exactly the same situation, because there is no steer. And I think the only thing that you can look to as a solid, as usual, is facts. And the fact is that the COVID that's going around at the moment is much less virulent. Well, it's not less virulent, but the impact of it is far reduced from the first strain of COVID that came over and that was killing people. And therefore, if you are indoctrinated against it, if you've been vaccinated, then your chances of having it bad are quite, severely reduced, which is great. And that's not brilliant because, like you said, you've got long COVID. Everybody who's had it probably has it to a greater or a lesser degree, and you want to try and avoid that. So it's kind of like, it's not a bad thing anymore to not wear a mask, really. But if you can, you probably should. But again, there's no steer. So what do? You've just got to follow your own logic and your own beliefs, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I pretty much summed up how when I sit down and go, like, talk to myself logically. Can you talk to yourself in a logical way? Or is that an oxymoron?
Yeah, you can.
Talking to yourself.
I'm an oxymoron. You can step aside from yourself. There's the fact that the human mind can divide itself can become a problem, but you can very clearly step away and talk to yourself as if you were talking to somebody else.
But when I'm walking through the town centre doing it, does that get a bit weird then?
That will probably disturb some people, but that's on them, and they're not wearing masks anyway, so they can sod off.
So screw them. Yeah. It is so weird, and this is why. Someone pointed out to me, or tried to point out to me a little while ago, that I come across as a hypocrite because I will turn around and go, our government sucks, we should listen, we need government advice at the same time. And it's like, but it's not mutually exclusive. It's like our government does suck and they're evil, but they do need to be the ones who give us the guidance as a society. Yeah. Because, I think they're evil and they're scummy and everything. But they are the ones who've got to turn around and make the laws. That if they turn around tomorrow again and said, look, we don't care if you can or can't breathe in your mask, or if you've got these issues, you have got to wear a mask, then I would do it because that is the law. I think many laws are bullshit, but I still follow them because that's the way it is, and that's the way it should be. The government are there to govern or just have parties, one of the two. But they are technically there to govern you. And to guide you as a society, and it's up to you whether you want to break from that. And sometimes you break from that, and you will suffer consequences. Unfortunately, depending on what background you're from, you'll suffer more consequences than others. But that's into a completely other discussion. But I just like the last couple of weeks, I've been sort of like, I know it's not over, and I can't stand the term, we're at the end of COVID, because we're not. We're getting more cases. Yes, it's milder, but we're getting more and more cases. And how's it going to mutate? But at the same time, I don't want to have I don't know how not being able to breathe properly in a mask is going to affect me. And I now have to pick and choose when I can and can't do it. And I think I wore it on the way to an appointment on the bus the other week because the bus was busy. But I didn't on the way back because there was like two other people on the bus. Yeah. I sat away from them, didn't wear it because, again, I was struggling to breathe properly in it. And again, even though I feel that's one of the biggest cop-outs from some people who go, you can't breathe in a mask. Well, you can because doctors and nurses do it all the time. But I struggle because, again, I'm bummed up. Even talking at this period, I feel my breath going and I need to stop and get the breath. So I'm just going to stop for a second and get some breath in.
Do it. While you're doing that, the parties, the party political, it's there in the title, party politics. If they want to have parties, they can. No, I'm just kidding, obviously. But I'm not a liberal person. And by that, I mean, I'm not like, people should be able to do what they want. Yeah, you should listen to both sides. No, not listening to both sides. I'm a lefty. I'm sorry. There's no middle ground for me anymore. I'm way past middle ground. But I'm like, well, if the law says you don't have to wear a mask, then you don't have to wear a mask. Whether I personally believe that's right or wrong, you don't have to. So, don't exercise your rights. They're your rights as an individual. I might disagree with them vehemently, but I'll defend your right under the law, with my last breath, because that's the law. But, I think, like, when you talk about having this binary thing in politics of, oh, you hate the Tories, therefore why are you asking anything of them? It kind of goes back to that really good meme of, you hate society and yet you participate in it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, really. It's like, but it's even more nuanced. It's like, good and bad only exists in Star Wars, it only exists in fiction. In reality, there are good people, lots of good people, in not necessarily the immediate Tory cabinet, but in the Tory institution, and also in the Quangos that have been set up, and the civil service. There's whole layers.
Quangos? Are we still talking Star Wars factions?
Yeah. They've got these funny protuberances from the back of their head, it's kind of. There are tons of people who the government go, I can't be bothered dealing with this. I'll give it to this department for them to work out and I'll just rubber stamp it. And the people who work on it are good people, And inevitably you get some good stuff coming out of bad parties and bad regimes. So life is complicated. Life is nuanced. It's not just black and white. And that's a good thing.
And I think that's obviously been shown best in the Karate Kid films.
Absolutely.
Because Johnny is the hero.
That's right, you see.
I love the fact that went from. I love the fact that went from sort of like being a throwaway joke that I saw in a couple of bits, and like in How I Met Your Mother with Barney Stinson, how his favourite character is Johnny and he's the good guy. And people were like, how can you see him as the good guy? To everyone going, oh, actually, Daniel's an arse, isn't he?
It is pretty funny, actually. Especially as when something comes out in an era that's particularly promoting something. So, like everything that Marty McFly does in Back to the Future is, governed and caressed and protected by the fact that it's Reaganite 80s America. So if you're pursuing a woman as a prize and a fancy truck, this is absolutely the pinnacle of life, and you can do anything you want to achieve it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. And it's just funny when you look back on actually quite a few of the 80s films, you're going, oh, these are a bit more of a social commentary than you initially realised.
Yep. Yeah, for good or ill. Yeah, it negatively affects some things that you thought were great, and it positively affects some things that you thought were bad.
Yeah. And the fact that, I just really love, this is an excuse now to talk about Cobra Kai. What I really love is that whole thing led to someone going, that's a good point. What would it be like now if the main characters from that film actually worked that out, that there wasn't just a hatred and it wasn't just black and white, and that's the whole premise of Cobra Kai, and it's just brilliant. It's just I love that we were able to revisit these things from the 80s and not just be. Yeah, life was simpler back then, because actually, no, it wasn't.
No, definitely not. And it is great when things get reinterpreted and you can make fresh art off the back of it and take a different direction. It doesn't happen very often, but every now and again it does.
And looking back at the 80s, Man United are shit again, so hey, it's all good. And Liverpool are good.
Yeah, so living in.
And if we win the quadruple, I'm going to be unbearable. more than usual.
Unbearable.
But yeah, I've got nothing else. You got anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Only that, I would try not to feel guilty or bad whichever choice you make, because you can't with the masks, not just like, should I murder this child? No, I mean specifically around masks.
I mean, she's at school at the moment.
No,
yeah.
Give it another couple of hours. So around masks, the law states something very, very clearly in that you don't have to wear one. It's personally up to you what you do, and you shouldn't feel guilty one way or the other as long as you've actually thought about the situation, because feeling continuously guilty about it is not going to be of positive benefit to anybody at all. So yeah, try not to struggle with that. I know it's difficult to not struggle with it. It's a struggle to not struggle, but try, struggle to not struggle about the struggle, and
someone knows who they're talking to, because someone knows that another someone's going to come straight off this and just still argue with himself in some way over all this. But it makes sense. So I have been God's favourite achievement, and I'm going to shut up now.
Excellent. Yeah, that comes from I was speaking to Brad last night on WhatsApp, and he gave me some advice about the Steam Deck, and I said, "Oh, you're God's greatest achievement." So yeah, that's what he goes by now. That's his official name. I think he's going to get it changed by Deedpoll this afternoon. Actually,
I'm going to get a T-shirt with it on.
Yeah, you should totally.
If the James Stephanie Sterling could do it, so could I.
Yeah, too right.
That's how I live my life, by the way.
No, that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, hope everybody enjoyed the Steam Deck special. We really enjoyed recording that one, and even though it was a bit rambly, which so uncommon for us, it was a really good conversation. We covered a lot of points, so if you haven't listened to it yet, go back and listen. Also listen to the new special that's coming out very, very shortly. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay sane.